pure and chaste, and there is no hope. Nobody can think anything about them. فمن يحاول منع نساء المسلمين كالدعاة للسفور والتبرج والاختلاط اليوم. So the one who is trying to prevent the Muslim women, like those who call to, those who invite to as-sufur wat-tabarruj, those who invite the women to show their faces and to even tabarruj, yani show more than that, right? To beautify themselves and show more of their bodies, right? Wal-ikhtilat, and for the women to mingle and mix with men today, right? So the one who is trying to stop the Muslim women from chastity, right? And calling them to just mingle with men and take off their cover and so on and so forth. من الاقتداء بهن في هذا الأدب السماوي الكريم. So he's preventing the women from taking the mothers of the believers as a role model in this adab, etiquette, samawi, heavenly etiquette, al-karim, that is a noble etiquette, al-mutadammin salamat al-ird, which includes the safety for the honor of the Muslim women, wat-tahara min danas al-riba, and to be completely pure from the dirt of doubt, doubt in terms of chastity, that is. So the one who tries to prevent the Muslim women from that, he is غَاشٌ لِأُمَّةِ مُحَمَّدٍ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. He is actually cheating, betraying the ummah, the nation of Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. مَرِيضُ الْقَلْبِ كَمَا تَرَى. He is having a sick heart, as you can see. Right? He has a sick heart. ذَلِكَ أَطْهَرُ, that is purer for your hearts and their hearts. He said, وَمِنْ أَوْضَحِ مَا يُسْتَدَلُّ بِهِ مِنَ السُنَّةِ. From the clearest proofs that are used as a proof from the Sunnah, على وجوب تغطية المرأة وجهها عن الرجال الأجانب, indicating that it is obligatory upon the woman to cover her face from the foreign strange men. ما جاء فيها, what has come in it, in the Sunnah of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, أن النساء يغطين أقدامهن, that the women, they even cover their feet. فعن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنه قال, upon the authority of Abdullah bin Umar رضي الله عنه, who said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said that Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, من جر ثوبه خيلا لم ينظر الله إليه يوم القيامة. The one who drags his thawb, his garment, his clothes, out of khuyala, out of pride, arrogance, Allah will not look at him on the day of judgment. فقالت سلمة. So سلمة said رضي الله عنها, فكيف يصنعن النساء بذيولهن. What do the women do now with their ذيول, literally tails, يعني the lower part of the garment that she is wearing, right? What do they do? قال يرخينه شبرا. So he's telling them not to drag the clothes. So now Salama says, what can women do, right? If they make it short, right? Then their feet will show, right? Their feet will show. So he said, يرخين شبرا. He said they will lower the garment, the clothing that they're wearing, 1 hand span, shibr, 1 hand span. فقالت إذا تنكشف أقدامهن. Then she said, their feet will show. يعني one hand span is not enough. If she moves her foot, then her foot will show. قال فيرخينه ذراعا لا يزدن عليه. So he said they should lower it down 1 arm span. They should not increase more than that. No more than 1 arm span. Right? and like what they do in the weddings, you know, when they wear those white, you know, and the tail is like dragging for 10 feet behind. يعني هذا من الخيلاء, right? يعني they shouldn't be doing that, right? They shouldn't be doing that, right? Even if they say, oh, we don't intend to be arrogant, we don't intend that, well, you shouldn't be doing it, right? You shouldn't be doing it regardless, right? And this is even for the women. And for the men, يعني the sunnah is to be half of the shin, and it is okay for it to be up to the ankles. More than the ankles, it should not be. It should not be more than the ankles, right? That's the norm. That's the norm. More than that, with arrogance or without arrogance, there is a discussion between the scholars, but everybody agrees that this is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Either to half of the shin, that's the best, or you're allowed more than that up to the ankles. And we learned what the ankles mean. Huh? The ankles, some of our brothers from Sham and other areas, يعني it's a slang, يعني. They think that the ankle is the heel, right? So they lower up to the heel, يعني down to the heel. Of course, if you lower down to the heel, يعني you're almost reaching the floor. So they say, oh, that's the ankle. We learned what the ankles are. Every foot has two ankles. It's the bones that on the two sides, right, of one foot, right? So that is the case. This is in رواه أهل السنن وغيرهم. وقال الترمذي هذا حديث حسن صحيح. In the Sunan and other than the people of the Sunan are 4, right? Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, right? And at-Tirmidhi said حسن صحيح. It's an authentic hadith. He said فإن مجيء الشريعة. How is he going to use it? He says فإن مجيء الشريعة بتغطية النساء أقدامهن. The legislation coming with the women covering their feet يدل دلالة واضحة. It indicates a clear indication على أن تغطية الوجه واجب. That covering the face, that is of the woman, is a must. لأنه موضع الفتنة والجمال من المرأة. Because it is the place of temptation, right, and the beauty of the woman. وتغطيته أولى من تغطية الرجلين. Covering the face has more right then to be covered than the 2 feet. والمرأة الحرة في الصلاة تغطي جميع بدنها إلا وجهها. The woman, free woman, right, in the prayer she covers everything, all of her body except إلا وجهها, except for her face. وهذا الذي ذكره الشيخ رحمه الله قد عزاه في المغني إلى مذهب الإمام أحمد. What the Shaykh mentioned here, that the woman covers everything except for her face in the Salah, this, what he mentioned, the book Al-Mughni by Ibn Qudama, Imam Ibn Qudama, he referred this position to the madhab, the school of Imam Ahmad. وذكر له رواية أخرى, and he mentioned for the same madhab, the madhab of Imam Ahmad, another narration, يعني another position. وهي جواز كشف الكفين أيضا, and that is that she is allowed to uncover her 2 hands also. وعزاه إلى مالك والشافعي, and he referred this position to Malik and الشافعي. وعزى إلى أبي حنيفة جواز كشف القدمين مع الوجه واليدين, and also he referred to Abu Hanifa, he referred to him the position, he attributed to him the position that uncovering the 2 feet also alongside with the face and the 2 hands. وإذا كان عند المرأة رجال أجانب, and if around the woman there were strange foreign men, وهي تصلي, while she is praying, فإنها تغطي وجهها. Then she covers her face. Why? Because of the presence of those strange men. قال في المغني, he mentioned in this book المغني by Ibn Qudama, قال ابن عبد البر, Ibn Abd al-Barr, this is a great Maliki scholar from Al-Andalus, the Muslim Spain. He said, وقد أجمعوا, they unanimously agreed أن على المرأة أن تكشف وجهها في الصلاة والإحرام, that the woman uncovers her face in the prayer and in the ihram. When she goes into ihram for Hajj, right? She doesn't cover her face. He said, والاقتصار على كشف الوجه في الصلاة, and just doing by or restricting oneself to uncovering the face in the prayer, هو الذي أجمع عليه العلماء وهو الذي أجمع عليه العلماء هو الأولى والأحوط. So he's saying, the Shaykh Abdul Muhsin حفظه, he says that for the woman to restrict herself to just uncovering the face only in the prayer, and this is what the scholars, all of them agreed upon. They all agreed that the face can be uncovered. The hands, there is a difference of opinion, right? But they all agreed that the woman uncovers her face in the salah. He said, هو الأولى والأحوط. It is better and safer, right? More like it, better, the better position to follow, and it is the safer position to follow, right? Why? Because they agreed that the face can be uncovered, but the hands, there is the difference. He said, وَأَمَّا الْأَمَةِ, as for the slave girl, فإنها إذا صلت مكشوفة الرأس فإن صلاتها صحيحة في قول عامة أهل العلم إلا الحسن. If the slave girl prays uncovering her head, then her prayer is acceptable. Then her prayer is acceptable in the statement or the position of the generality, the most يعني, of the people of knowledge, except for Al-Hasan Al-Basri رحمه الله, كما حكاه في المغني, as he mentioned it in the book Al-Mughni. وفي كشف غير الرأس خلاف بين أهل العلم. And regarding uncovering other than the head, there is a difference of opinion between the people of knowledge. والأولى للأمة أن تكون كالحرة في الاحتشام والستر في جميع أحوالها في الصلاة وغيرها. And what is best, the better position for the slave girl, that she be like the free woman in terms of ihtisham, modesty and shyness, and covering herself as satr في جميع أحوالها, in all of her conditions, in the salah and other than the salah. Now the rulings, the fuqaha in their earlier books, they talk about the rulings for slavery and slaves, and the rulings of that, and this remained in the books of fiqh, and it continued to this day. And some of the modern books, cut down a lot on these rulings because they do not exist nowadays. There's no slavery nowadays. Maybe, inshallah, another time we can take a look at that subject. Is an interesting subject. The ruling of that in Islam is that it was there when the revelation came to Rasulullah sallallahu, and there were rulings to it, and then there is a lot of rulings encouraging the freeing and the emancipation, setting the slaves free, right? And our scholars mentioned that since in this time the people have agreed that if we fight, we don't enslave you, you don't enslave us, right? That is okay. That is okay. Like, Islam does not come with enforcing or recommending slavery. There is no such a thing, right? So if the people agreed that they do not do this to each other, then, because that's how slavery came. That's how slavery came. Wars, and then the ones who win, they enslave the others who lose. And then there is the other way of slavery, which is many of the Westerners they were doing, which they go to countries whose people are free, and they just steal. They take those people away and enslave them. This is already haram in Islam. It's not allowed. It's not allowed. Although, unfortunately, some Muslims used to do that, or used to help them to do that. Right? That's a sin in Islam. One of the major sins is to enslave someone who is a free person. Right? That's not there. It's not legislated in Islam. It's one of the major sins, actually. Right? But this, we leave for another time, inshallah ta'ala. Now, since the next condition is dukhulul waqt, the entrance of the time of Salah. But before we go to that, let's go back a little and talk about the other side. Right? The Sheikh spoke about the scholars who are of the position that the woman must cover everything when she is around strange men. The other position, and this is from the book, same scholar that the Sheikh quoted, Ibn Abdul Barr, right? In his book At-Tamheed, he says that the woman كلها عورة إلا الوجه والكفين على هذا أكثر أهل العلم, that the woman must cover everything except for the face and the two hands. Upon this position are the majority of the people of knowledge, right? And he quoted the same statement that the Sheikh mentioned here, وَقَدْ أَجْمَعُوا على أن المرأة تكشف وجهها في الصلاة والإحرام. They unanimously agreed that the woman uncovers her face in the prayer and in the ihram, right? And Malik, Abu Hanifa, and Ash-Shafi'i and their companions, and the position of Al-Awza'i and Abu Thawr, they said على المرأة أن تغطي منها ما سوى وجهها وكفيها, that the woman must cover everything other than her face and her two hands, right? Then he mentioned that since the scholars, and he mentioned a statement of one of the scholars that he said that the woman, all of her must be covered, even her nails, أظافر, حتى ظفرها, right? Even her nails, right? Then he said, he commented that this position of that scholar is outside of the positions of the scholars, لإجماع العلماء على أن للمرأة أن تصلي المكتوبة, because the scholars have unanimously agreed that the woman is allowed to pray the compulsory prayer, ويداها ووجهها مكشوف, and her two hands and her face, they are uncovered. ذلك كله منها تباشر الأرض به. All of that is uncovered, her face and two hands, directly touching the floor with that, with her hands and her face. And they also unanimously agreed وأجمعوا على أنها لا تصلي متنقبة. They agreed that she does not pray wearing the niqab. The niqab is the face cover. The niqab is what is made to cover the face. ولا عليها أن تلبس قفازين في الصلاة. It is not upon her. They agreed that she does not have to wear gloves in the prayer. وفي هذا أوضح الدلائل على أن ذلك منها غير عورة. This has clearest proofs that those two parts from her, they're not awra, they're not something that she must to be covered. وجائز أن ينظر إلى ذلك منها أو ينظر إلى ذلك منها كل من نظر إليها بغير ريبة ولا مكروه. And that it is allowed to look at that, those two parts from her face and two hands. It is okay to look at those parts from her. Everyone who looks at her بغير ريبة ولا مكروه, without riba. يعني this is now يعني sexual desire, right? And without anything that is disliked. وأما النظر للشهوة فحرام. As for looking at the woman with a desire, with a lust, then that is حرام تأملها من فوق ثيابها لشهوة. It is prohibited to تأمل, يعني to sharply look, right? Deeply look, to take a deep look into the woman. من فوق ثيابها, even from above her clothes, يعني even to the parts that are covered. It's not allowed to look at that with shahwa, with a desire. فكيف بالنظر إلى وجهها مسفرة, right? So how about then looking at her face when she uncovered it, right? To look at that with a desire, that's prohibited, right? So even if the woman is covered with a niqab, you don't look at her. You don't look at her hand, even if she is covered with gloves. You don't look at that with a desire. It's prohibited. So how about looking with a desire to something that is uncovered, like the face, right? طيب. Then he mentions, Ibn Abdul Barr, the other ayah from Surah An-Nur. وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا. They do not show their beauty or adornment except that which shows up from them, right? So he mentions from Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar that إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا, except what shows up, الْوَجْهُ وَالْكَفَّانِ, the face and the two hands. And from Ibn Mas'ud, مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا الثِّيَابِ, what shows up from her is the clothes, right? So and he goes on, right, to talk about that. So we have these two major positions, that the woman should not show her adornment except for that which shows up. What is it that shows up? According to some companions, the face and the two hands. The others, just the clothes. It means she's all covered. And he goes on that the tabi'un, they have that also, right? So this is the case. That's what you find in the from the scholar Ibn Abdul Barr. In the tafsir of Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, which is the mother of the books of tafsir, as they say, right? He mentions there the same thing. لا يبدين زينتهن إلا ما ظهر منها. They should not show their beauty or their adornment except that which shows up of them, right? So he mentions the different statements of the scholars in that regard: the face and the two hands, and the clothes, or just the clothes, and so on and so forth. Then Ibn Jarir alayhi rahmatullah, he says, وَأَوْلَى الْأَقْوَالِ فِي ذَلِكَ بِالصَّوَابِ. The inshallah, I don't have, I lost the power here. MashaAllah. He says the أولى الأقوال في ذلك بالصواب, after he mentions the different statements of the scholars on that, he says that the closest position to be correct in this regard, قول من قال, is the statement of the one who says عنا بذلك الوجه والكفان, except for that which shows up of her. The woman should cover everything except what shows up. The strongest position, according to Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, is the face and the two hands. Then he says يدخل في ذلك إذا كان كذلك الكحل والخاتم والسوار والخضاب. Included in that, if that is the case, is al-kuhl, right? The kuhl, right? It's the black stuff that the women put. Wal-khatim, the khatim. What is the khatim? Huh? The ring, right? Was-siwar, the bracelet. Wal-khidab, the dye. You know, if she dyes her hair like a henna or whatever, it may show according to him. وإنما قلنا ذلك أولى الأقوال في ذلك بالتأويل. We only said that this is the closest of the positions in this regard to interpret for the interpretation of this ayah. لإجماع الجميع, that is because all of them unanimously agreed على أن على كل مصل أن يستر عورته في صلاته, that everyone who prays, he must cover his awrah in his prayer. He must cover the parts that must be covered in his prayer. وأن للمرأة أن تكشف وجهها وكفيها في صلاتها, and that the woman, she can uncover her face and her two hands in her prayer. وأن عليها أن تستر ما عدا ذلك من بدنها, and that it is upon her to cover other than that of her body, other parts of her body. Then he says إلا ما روي, except what has been narrated. And this narration is actually a weak narration, right? And he says ruwiya, it is narrated. There is some sort of indication that is not that strong. أن تكشف وجهها وكفيها في صلاة إلا ما روي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه أباح لها أن تبديه من ذراعها لقدر النصف, that she's allowed to show from her arm up until like half of it, right? Which is not a strong narration anyway. فإذ كان ذلك من جميعهم إجماعا, since all of them unanimously agreed upon that, كان معلوما بذلك أن لها أن تبدي من بدنها ما لم يكن عورة, that she is allowed to show that which is not a awrah for her. Inshallah, if you can, mashallah, that's good. If you can do that, I don't know, although يعني, I wonder if there is, yeah. That will be good if we can do it. Though I might already have lost the connection. Bismillah. طيب. So he said, يعني, since they agreed that in the salah she can uncover her face and hands, كان معلوما بذلك أن لها أن تبدي من بدنها ما لم يكن عورة كما ذلك للرجال. It will be known then that she can show of her body those parts that are not considered awrah. They're not considered يعني, parts that must be covered. كما ذلك للرجال, exactly like it's the same thing for the men. لأن ما لم يكن عورة فغير حرام إظهاره. That is because that which is not considered awrah, parts that must be covered, then it is not haram for them to show. It is not haram for them to show. Inshallah, if there is no extension, then it's okay. Inshallah, we'll just get it from you. Inshallah, I can get it from. This recording is more clear, clearer. All right, all right. MashaAllah. Yeah. Okay, I can just make it closer. See if it's gonna come up. So he says, وإذا كان لها إظهار ذلك كان معلوما أنه مما استثناه الله تعالى ذكره بقوله إلا ما ظهر منها لأن كل ذلك ظاهر منها. He said, if she is allowed to show that, then it is known then that it is from that which Allah has made an exception for it, subhanahu wa ta'ala, by Him saying, إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا, except for that which show of them, from the women, that is. Because all of that shows from them, right? يعني the face and the two hands. وقال ابن كثير في تفسيره, الإمام ابن كثير, he said in his تفسير عن هذا التفسير, that إلا ما ظهر منها, that the woman must cover everything except what shows of them, right? He said about the face and the two hands, وهذا هو المشهور عند الجمهور, and this is the position that is widespread, مشهور, famous, عند الجمهور, according to the majority, right? So يعني just always mentioning the two sides, right? Those fiqh positions, because you might find one side and they only tell you their side, right? To a point that you think, oh, the other side has no, right? We're talking here Ibn Jarir, Ibn Kathir, and before them Ibn Abdul Barr, and before them Sahaba and Tabi'een, and Atba'ut Tabi'een, and on. And to this day, still the scholars are, right, discussing it and writing books and fatwas, right? And there is this famous hadith that Asma, Rasulullah ﷺ told her, Asma bint Abi Bakr, that the woman, if she reaches the age of mahid, where she is mensing, it is not fitting to show from her anything other than this and that. And he pointed to the face and the two hands, right? Now we move from the discussion or the battle between the fuqaha to the battle between the muhaddithun now, right? Which some of them say this is authentic, and the others will say no, it is not. And that discussion continues to this day. And the two sides are authoring books in this regard, right? And as a mursal hadith, mursal, who knows what the mursal means? Mursal. What is a mursal hadith? Who knows the mursal? Mursal. What does it mean in the first place, before its ruling?
It's a weak hadith. Among the weak there is munkar, mursal.
The word mursal itself, this hadith, the terminology of hadith, what does it mean? Mursal is a statement of a tabi'i, is a statement of a man from the second generation of Muslims. His statement, right? So you have Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who narrates from him? A Sahabi, right? Radiallahu anhum. Who narrates from the Sahabi? The Tabi'i. Now, if a Tabi'i from the second generation of Muslims, he says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said such and such, is this to be accepted or not? Okay, it's not accepted. Why is it not accepted? Because there is a break in the chain. If a Sahabi missing, if there is a Sahabi missing, we know that there is one Sahabi or two Sahabi or 10 Sahaba missing. Does this hurt the narration in any way? It does not hurt it, because all the Sahaba are accepted. But the problem is that there are some of the Tabi'un, they do not narrate from a companion. He could have narrated from another Tabi'i, or from another, and that Tabi'i could have narrated from another Tabi'i, and that Tabi'i could have narrated from another Tabi'i, right? So for a Tabi'i to say قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, we have to stop there and put a question mark, because we're not sure. We don't care if the Sahabi is missing. All the Sahaba are accepted. But the tabi'un, some of them are not accepted, either because of their memory has a problem, or because they are not that strong in terms of hadith. They're not, so that's where the problem is. Although many scholars, many fuqaha, they will accept the statement of a tabi'i. Now, if the statement of a tabi'i, there comes another narration or other narrations that are connected, muttasil, right? But then there is some weakness in it, right? Some scholars like Imam al-Shafi'i and others, and this is what scholars of hadith say, that this mursal, this statement of the tabi'i gains some strength. Why? Because there is supporting evidence that shows that this is strong, right? And this is where the issue is with some of those marasil, the plural of mursal, right? So you find like Al-Imam al-Bayhaqi, for instance, from the scholars of the past, he gives this narration strength. And you can see that it matches what the majority, if we accept that the majority are upon that. You might find those who say, as you heard from the Sheikh Abdulmunim here, according to him, the majority are saying, no, the woman must cover, right? But according to the other position, the majority say, no, the face and hands can show, right? Yes, it is haram for a person to look with a desire to the woman, but that is haram even if they are covered and someone is just, examining and taking a deeper look. It's haram, right? So this is the case here, that we have that discussion, and it is an interesting discussion. And as I told you, past and present, in terms of fiqh and in terms of hadith, there is that give and take. However, for the woman, that it is recommended for them to cover, this is agreed upon. That the woman who covers is better than the woman who doesn't. Face and hands we're talking, right? She is doing something that she will be rewarded for. For those who say the niqab is a bid'ah, right? Covering the face and the hands is an innovation in a heresy in Islam. They are the ones who are upon heresy. And this is agreed upon, that it is recommended to cover, right? And that the woman who covers is better than the one who doesn't cover. But then covering the face and the hands, right? Why is it done? If we say it's recommended, it's because it is purer for everybody, right? But now if you have some women, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive them, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them, may Allah forgive us and guide us too. Some Muslim women use the cover, right, truly as a veil, because her identity is covered. She can be rude, she can be aggressive, right? You are covered because you're more modest, you're shy. The shyness is the best quality in a woman. So if you are fully covered and you are jumping in a crowd of men and talking and shouting and with the niqab, mashallah, right? That's not right, right? This extra clothing is supposed to show that you are extra careful. It does not mean that you are weak or you are a walkover. It does not mean that at all. But it means you are more modest, you are more reserved than a woman who uncovers her face and hands. So if this face covering makes you more rude and aggressive and like a man now, right? Definitely that's not why the niqab is legislated, right? And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all. I think I will stop here so that we are not, we're not gonna, get into start a little bit and then stop, in the middle, and then we have to finish next week. I will stop here, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan for listening and attending. And inshallah, if you have any comments, anything that we can improve the quality of this gathering, please let me know. Please let me know. And I'm thinking even of maybe we have a WhatsApp group for this Friday halaqah, right? So we can follow up and see how we can best, make use of our time, right? And really gain the knowledge that we are supposed to gain, inshallah ta'ala. So now if you have questions, we can do that. I suggest maybe let's call the adhan first, and then we can, right? Or still the time of the adhan. The time is already in, right? You know that, right? Yani Salatul Isha, right? The time for it is already in. Yani those who delay Maghrib until the published time, they're praying Maghrib outside of its time, And I've watched this myself many times. The redness in the sky is completely gone. And if you are aware of our calendar, which is the 12 degrees, and I think the same you are using here, even that, the redness of the sky is completely gone, maybe up to 10 minutes sometimes before the time. Right? So today maybe it says 9:59, or tomorrow maybe 9:59. 9:50, I think time is gone, right? And I've seen this in the masjid, where some brothers came and they have their jama'ah, and after they finished, we called the adhan. And we called the adhan, it's already, the time is already in some time ago. And if you want to get the best timing for Salatul Isha, the most accurate one that I have seen myself is the one that is on moonsighting.com. Isha only. Fajr, they have it a little bit early, right? A little bit early. But Salatul Isha, the most correct timing for Salatul Isha is the one you see on moonsighting.com. You can put Toronto, and you will see that their timing, Allah knows best, is the closest to being correct. And this is based on watching, right? Watching it, and you can do that yourself. You just go out and, in an area where there isn't too much light, and then you can look, you will find that the redness of the sky will disappear, right? Allah knows best. Tafaddal, inshallah, you wanted to.
Talking about the covering the hour.
Yes.
You see people praying and then they come to sujood.
Yes, that was, it's a funny thing, one time in the Salah, khutbah of Jumu'ah, right? And I said that some of our brothers, they wear just one shirt, and that shirt is short, and when they make ruku or sujood, then their backs show, and very unfortunately, some of them more than the back shows, especially when they are making wudu in those, you have to you have to be around there covering your eyes, because you don't want to see something bad, May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive and pardon all of us, but then we should be careful. So a brother sitting in the back, laughing in the end, he told me, when you mentioned in the khutbah that those brothers, he said everybody was going pulling his pants and pulling down his shirt, right? But it's unfortunate. And this is a big issue. A lot of scholars, they say the salah is null and void. Some of them will say no, they have done it unknowingly, so therefore, as you heard. But then, we shouldn't be risking the validity of our salah because of something like this, right? Do something about the salah so that it will not be null and void. Tuck your shirt in for the salah so that it will not be covered. Use the type of pants, I don't know what they call them, those really cut يعني they're very low يعني, right? يعني it's not subhanallah يعني. So that's a good question there. We should remind our brothers to be careful about that. Allah knows best. تفضل.
Super العورة. I've seen some people in shorts.
Mhm.
When you tell them, they say it's covered. When they're standing, it's covered.
Yes.
When you sit at Qiyam,
Mhm.
it comes here.
Yes. Now, if the thigh, al-fakhidh, it shows up, right? Then they are taking the risk there. But they say the awrah is what is between the navel and the knee. The knee itself is not awrah. But if you don't cover it, as you mentioned, if you don't cover the knee, when you go to ruku' or sujood, right, or you sit, right, it will be pulled above the knee. So if only the knee shows, the salah is still valid. But if more than the knee, then one is taking the risk, because many scholars, they say the salah will be invalid then, except for those who say that the fakhidh itself, the thigh, is not a awrah, which is a position that is there. And we mentioned it actually. If you remember the statement of Al-Bukhari that the hadith of Jurhud, right? Hadith Anas Asnad wa hadith Jurhud Ahwat. Right? We mentioned that statement from Al-Imam Al-Bukhari, that the hadith of Anas, in terms of chain, it's stronger. And that hadith says that Rasulullah ﷺ uncovered his thigh, right? And hasara, right? And the other narration of Jurhud, between the navel and the knee, right, is safer, right? And Allah knows best. Yeah. Faddal.
Somebody's praying and he's showing his back.
Uh-huh.
This is two questions. When you see somebody doing that,
Uh-huh.
you tell that person, or if you tell that person, that person has to repeat the salah. What he's showing is behind.
You advise him that you shouldn't be praying like that because your back is showing, and you shouldn't be, right? Now, if the salah is valid or not, right? This is based on whether he knew or he didn't. If he didn't know, inshallah the salah is valid. If he knew, right, the salah is only valid according to those scholars who say the main that has to be covered is the front and the back, right? But it is a very risky situation. Yani, should not be in that situation at all. So they should be warned that your salah, according to many scholars, is invalid. You shouldn't be doing that. Allah knows best. And this is from cooperation upon righteousness and piety, inshallah. The shoulder, we mentioned the hadith last time, that the Shaykh, he mentioned the hadith أن يعني في الثوب ليس على عاتقيه منه شيء, يعني that he should be covered. According to some scholars, that if the shoulders are not covered, the salah is null and void. But the majority of the scholars, they say no, the salah is valid. Covering the shoulders is only recommended. It's only recommended, not a must. We mentioned that last week.
Sheikh, this question, the scholars asked the person, they try to prove their opinion.
When?
They are trying to prove their opinion.
Uh-huh.
When they are strong in the language,
Yes.
each one.
Mhm.
Sometimes the reader get a little bit, it's like he's scared, it should be right.
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
you get a situation like you yourself, it's something you're pulling
Yes.
one side.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a nature we are battling. So
Yes, so when you see the statements of the scholars when they differ, some of them on this side they are being strong, they present their position very strongly. Then the other side also they present their position very strongly, and then we are caught in between, and we are kind of become scared. This is a valid question, but you have to understand that also there are reasons to this. There are reasons to this. It's not that those scholars, they are unaware of the difference of opinion and that there are other scholars who said this, but they are talking, the scholars are dealing with an environment that they are in. You see, an environment where the majority of the women cover everything. Why would someone come and encourage them to show the face and the hands and fight about that and present the other position as a backward position? Those who are trying to restrict the women, trying to hold, those are the hypocrites, the secularists. That's what they usually are. So when those scholars are talking, they are trying to stop these from doing what they're doing. And it's a reality, and it's unfortunate. And over time, some of those deviant and hypocrites, and they achieved what they want. They want the society to become more loose, right? Free mixing between men and women, the women not covering as much, the women traveling alone, the women working in places, mingling with other men, and so on and so forth. And if you see the situation in some of the Muslim countries, you would realize that. So this is the case. The point is that the only way to be saved and to be upon a path of moderation is to listen to the different scholars, right? And not to just listen to one sheikh and take from one sheikh, right? And you know nothing about anything but from that one sheikh, right? Then that's where things become very strange and awkward, and you might even think bad of other people who are following other scholars, right? So this is the case, and you go back to what the people of knowledge have said, past and present, right? So a matter that has give and take, then it is give and take. And from the strongest hadith that everybody agree upon, like for instance,